Hello, this is Managed Services Platform on Account Management, episode 7, and we are going to talk about how to get a really engaged meeting with a client with different type of widgets, how to keep the agenda, how to set up the meeting, how to keep the flow of the meeting, how to make sure we are collecting to-dos for ourselves and the clients, and actually how to make a really not an informative meeting to a really structured, more consultative type engagement, which is going to show so much more value to the client. So, first, I think we should cover why actually we need a little bit more formal engagement through these quarterly business reviews or IT infrastructure audits. Why is it not enough to go as a friends and friendly people and just wing it? Like, what do you think is the major reason for that?
Well, I'd say the first and biggest problem has to do with hiring people that are capable of doing that. Not everybody's, automatically out of the gate really good at winging those types of interactions. And the more you design your meeting agenda, the more you actually plan what's going to happen. You can expect from that an outcome. So you can get a predictable outcome by actually planning the meeting agenda, knowing what questions you're going to ask, knowing where you're going to lead the conversation, and it puts you in control then of the meeting.
So it's great to have for account managers do that, and also it's great because you are going to harvest the information what they are going to have, so the technical team can back more information, you are collecting more data. So actually how you do that and what type of recommendations you have for keeping the meeting highly engaged and how to follow up and things like that?
Well, the first thing we always want to remember is the meeting needs to be about the client. And so the questions we need to be asking need to be about them. They shouldn't be about us. We shouldn't be just there to vomit a bunch of how many tickets we closed, technical type metrics onto them. They already know how many workstations they have and how many servers they have and all that. They don't need to have that constantly refed to them. So we need to make sure that the questions we ask when we go in, we've got a list of questions we want to ask. Things should be topics like, what's happening in their business right now? So where do they see opportunities for profitability or to increase their profitability? Where do they see an opportunity to increase the productivity of their team? Or conversely, what frustrations are they having right now as a team working, especially around technology? And then thirdly, what fears do they have towards their business? Where do they see threats right now? And then you, as the smart account managers, VCIOs, what you can do is you can come back and say, I have a solution. There's a technology solution that might help with that. And because they told you that's already something they're looking for, it's going to be much easier for them to adopt it.
So that way you are going to collect these business information like one meeting, and then you are keep updating this business information time to time, so you can review what were their biggest problems, challenges last quarter, whether it's still relevant, and you are able to have some kind of a client problem profile, right? So in that case, that's going to be there. All right, what about the agenda? So like how you manage a meeting, because that's where most people fall short, like wing it. Like how you actually stay on track, make sure it's going to be like 45 minutes, or you are really effectively spending the time.
Yeah, that comes back to just designing how you want the meeting to be. You've got, you set your agenda widget. So you use a content widget and you create your agenda and you tell them what the agenda is going to be and what you're going to go through. And you make sure that they're agreeing with that. And then you can take your notes. I like to have a content widget for each meeting. If I'm doing it monthly, I'll have 12. If I'm doing it quarterly, I'll have 4. And then I can go back and I can look at trending themes from the different meetings I've had with them back and forth over the year. And I can have other widgets in there as well to help me keep track of if I made any phone calls, has anything specific come up, and use the whole report kind of as a scrolling timeline of the conversation you're going to have with them through your meeting so that you can stay on track. And that's why it's so important to make sure you've got something in there to remind you to book the next meeting too.
Yeah, that's what like once I saw that you were basically reviewing the material with the first like the previous quarter with what we've got covered, what we promised to do, what we promised. So it's really interesting because you can prepare for the meeting by checking all the boxes from the last meeting. So you did your homework. And the other neat stuff I saw that you were using the previous scoring and previous scores like a screenshot and just pasted the screenshot to the widget. So hey, that was the last score was like 25. We went up to 35, so we have 35 now, and we can go to 45 this quarter. So it's like kind of showing the way. It was really neat because it was like really like for a client, it's really important to see how I'm scoring. So any other best practice you have for those use for these widgets?
Just make sure that you are clear at the end of it and review what the next steps are that you're responsible for at your MSP, but also what the client is responsible for. They should have homework too. So everybody should have a list of to-dos that come out of this meeting because they need to be actively engaged in their technology roadmap with you. And so set your to-dos. And what's nice is you can actually print this off and send it to them as a PDF at the end of every meeting and be able to just say, hey, here's what we talked about in our meeting minutes, and let them know that we're going to keep doing this and we're going to always review, just like any formal meeting. If you've ever been part of a formal like board meeting or anything like that, one of the first things you do is review the minutes from the previous meeting, and then you go through the agenda and go through and make new minutes. So you always want to follow that format to be able to run a professional meeting. It's going to empower your team. If you give them this type of a resource, it's going to empower them, which takes a huge amount of pressure off their shoulders because now they don't have to wing it. Winging it is incredibly stressful. Being prepared is really easy. So the more you empower them with preparedness and resources like this, the easier it's going to be for them to do it. And the easier you make it to do it, then it gets done. And that's really what the goal is.
That's how you scale up this account management. Nice. Thank you very much. That was episode 7. And the next episode, we are going to go through this really exciting stuff, how to embed different type of cool features to the report and actually create and make this whole event way more engaging with interactive elements. So keep with us like next week. And thanks, Mice, for your wisdom, and see you guys next.
Awesome. See you soon.